Welcome back to another video, and we are going to be talking about Titanborn, a Minecraft MMORPG server that runs without using any mods at all. As it stands now, Titanborn consists of 3 different game modes. It has an arena, where you fight waves and waves of enemies. It has a story, where you go through and your choices matter depending on what you make. The story is fully voice acted, fully animated, so that part's really neat. And then also there is the speedrun mode. I did not mess with the speedrun mode personally, so I can't talk too much on that, but I just know that it exists. One of the creators of Titanborn reached out and asked me to make a video on Titanborn, kind of explaining what it is to my audience. And to be clear, there were no agreements signed, nothing like that, and this is all going to be my opinion and with no say from Titanborn at all. Alright, so let's talk about some of the cons, some of the complaints I had while playing the game. So right off the bat, the resource pack that you have to download for Titanborn is quite extensive. Now it makes sense because there's no mods, so you have to download all these assets as you play the game. But it took me almost an hour to finish downloading all of the resource pack content, and while I was doing that, the game would not function properly. So that was a big downside for me, for someone that has really good internet and who can usually download things really quickly. Like for me, and I bet for a lot of people, that was a big turn off right at the start. It kind of left a sour taste in my mouth. The next thing I want to talk about that I wasn't the biggest fan of is the quest tracking panel. Just kind of the UI design of it. I just think it's kind of in your face. I had to turn my GUI scale down to pretty low just to make it not annoy me as much. I think one thing that did annoy me about it a little bit was the server address on the bottom of it in like a bright blue color. Like I understand that they want people to like to make videos and stuff to have their server address right there, but I think it should either have a toggle or shouldn't be there. It should be in a different way because it was just kind of annoying to me personally. Next, we will talk about the combat. So the combat is good and it's bad. It's kind of a mixed thing for me. I like the system and I like the gem system and the socketing of the weapons, and I didn't like how it actually played out too much. Honestly, there was like no feedback when hitting enemies or killing enemies. One thing I really like about in Wynncraft is when I kill an enemy, it plays that really loud ding noise. And that ding noise helps me realize like, okay, the mob's dead, or I can move on to the next mob. And in Titanborn, when it dies, it just dies, which is fine, but for my personal preference, I like when there is some type of feedback for when enemies get hit and when enemies get killed. That way, I don't know, just my brain likes it more. Another thing with the combat was the animations. So the animations, sometimes your screen or your camera kind of goes back a little bit behind your character, like when you cast a spell or when you roll or something like that, and it's really disorienting. It almost seems like the game is meant to be played exclusively in third person. It wasn't made known anywhere to my knowledge that that's the intent, but it with first person it does get disorienting at times. Another downside is the beta. It was a pay to access beta, so I don't really think too many people got their hands on it. I would have liked to see a period of open beta, and maybe that's going to come later in the summer. But as of right now, you have to pay to access the beta, or like me, they whitelisted me on there. I did not have to pay for it. But it's kind of a bad thing because the more people you have on it, the more testing you can get, and then the more feedback they can get. So I wasn't a big fan of that. And lastly, again, when talking about the resource pack download, I have really good internet, and when I was on there, I was lagging a very noticeable amount, and I was the only player on the server. And I know this is a beta, so they probably don't have the server specs that they are planning to have when this thing fully releases, but I did just want to mention that. Alright, let's talk about the pros. So the pros are the animations for the NPCs is really neat. I really like that. That's something I hope to see more of in other games. It was really neat, the little starting cutscene that I played at the beginning of the video, how the guy's waving at you and moving all around. I really liked that. So I hope to see more of that in the game's future, and I hope that can come over to some of the other Minecraft servers as well. The next thing I'm happy about with the server is the voice acting. So the voice acting is awesome. It's better than even Voices of Wynn voice acting. The sound quality is really good. I really enjoyed it when I played through the story section that they had in the beta. I hope they keep going strong with that because that was really enjoyable. The next thing is the story. So the story was okay. It was good to follow, and I enjoy that there was something meaningful to follow. There's a lot of these like servers and stuff, like I'm sure there are stories behind some of these, like Hypixel Skyblock is an example. Like why are you doing all the things you're doing? There might be some lore, but like I don't really know anybody that cares about that lore, so I do appreciate that this server is trying to make some type of story and lore to tie everything together. Probably the most fun I had was playing in the arena. I played in the arena for a bit and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the waves of enemies. I enjoyed that there were different enemies. Again, it was laggy when I was playing, so I could do only so much, but I hope it is expanded. And that kind of brings me into the next section I want to talk about, which is the hopes. So some hopes I have are, speaking about arena, is expanding it, maybe having different maps to select, different difficulty settings, maybe an endless mode. I think arena is really going to be a part where this server shines. I would also like to see some type of PvP. If you've watched any of my other videos talking about Wynncraft and what I'd like to see, I always mention PvP, more PvP. I love PvP in games. I think it gives you something to strive for, and like a purpose in the end for all the power you're building. So I think once kind of the clunkiness of the camera can get fixed, that PvP would be really fun with their systems. So I hope that maybe there's some type of instance PvP or open PvP or something that is included in this server. And then another thing is this server again has really unique systems. Their weapon socketing system's really unique. Where I didn't explain that earlier, but you take these gems and you kind of build your class based on the gems by socketing them into the weapon, and you get different skills based on what you socket in. So there could even be something in the future like a roguelike mode using this system. I think it could actually work really well. So I would love to see something like that in the future. So in the end, I think Titanborn is in an okay state. I know they want to release it in the summertime. I personally wouldn't think that a summer release, based on what I played, would be the best. But it wasn't bad, but it wasn't good. The main part of Titanborn is, to me, is the story and the animations, and those were all really good, but also the combat, and I just personally could not get over the camera issues I was having. And maybe it's some type of setting I need to change or whatever, and if so, I will correct that in a future video. But as of now, it wasn't very intuitive, but I do think I will revisit Titanborn if some of the things I said in the beginning of the video are changed or addressed. But overall, it wasn't a bad experience, but it wasn't an experience that when I was done, I was like, I want to play more. So that was my thoughts on Titanborn. Again, they asked me to make this video. Those are my honest thoughts. And I hope to see you in one of the future videos.